Hello, welcome to Pop Along RC, the RC car channel dedicated to RC car racing. And I'll tell you what, it has been a very, very busy week here at Pop Along RC. Now, first problem that I need to mention is my trusty old lens stopped working on me. So therefore, we haven't been able to get in the studio for a while. Hence, there's not been a great deal of content coming out. But we've got a new lens on the camera at the moment. It is a lot cheaper than this one. Hopefully the quality is okay and the imagery is nice and crisp. So, what have I been up to? Well, I've been building cars. I have been in the workshop building cars. The first car that I have been working on is this one here. This is the RB10 RETRO. Now, if you saw my last video on this, I basically took the front and the rear off of an RB10 and bolted it straight onto the chassis, took it out, run it, and now I've brought it back and we're building up the car, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video here. However, before we get started on this build, I just wanted to mention, because I know there's lots of people asking, I've also been working on this, and this is my Schumacher Vibe FT, the entry-level fronty. Now I'm just waiting on electrics for this car, the shell and wheels, so we're going to get all this finished off very soon. So that's one car that will be coming to the channel very soon, but let's take a little look at the team associated RB10 RETRO. So if we get underneath the shell, you can see there's still a little bit of work to be done here. So the servo hasn't been put in, and the shocks haven't been built, and those are the last two jobs really that I've got to do. I think there's another bit to go on the back so that I can fit the wing, but other than that it's basically shocks and just making sure the electrics are all set up, and then we can get this car back out on the track. Really looking forward to running it. Not sure exactly what class it's going to fit into. Obviously here at Pop Along RC we are going to be running some Pop Along raves is what we're going to call them. So that is Pop Along retro and vintage events. So this is classed as a retro car because it's got that rear motor. Anyway, let's get on with the build. So hopefully you've seen the video of me putting this RB10 together and running it over at the mill end track. Now this is a bit of a hybrid because I've got the retro chassis, but all I did really was bolt on the front of an RB10 and the rear of the RB10 onto the chassis. So this wasn't a complete build. So I am now going to go through the manual. So the idea at the end of this is actually to have two cars that I can run. So to build the sort of steering rack here, it's pretty straightforward stuff. It goes together really nicely, but it's worth noting that I've already got the upgraded alley option steering rack. So I'm going to build up this one. As you can see, it works really nicely. But instead of putting this on the retro car, I'm going to put this one on the original RB10. And therefore, I will be running the alley one in the retro car. Other than a couple of the alley upgrades, I am going to keep this car pretty much box stock. But I will be working through the build as we go. So there wasn't much to the previous build, in that I simply bolted the rear end on, bolted the front on, and that was it. So I've got this chassis now to the point where I need to start building the important parts, such as the diffs and the gears and stuff like that. In terms of the chassis, obviously I've got the lipo set up for a shorty there. I've still got my receiver stuck in from where I've already run it, but that will probably stay there. I'm going to run a slightly smaller ESC which I can move down to the side, so I'm going to change the layout ever so slightly. But there we go. This is the basic chassis. It's time to start building up the gearbox. So here is the gearbox, really nice and simple to put together. If you've ever done a diff like this, they're pretty straightforward. Gears, metal gears inside as well. You've just got that little pin, which can be a bit of a pain to get in, but it all lined up really nicely. Another good thing about this kit is the oils come with it. So I think this is 5,000 weight oil that I'm putting in the diff now. And you want to take your time with this so that all the air bubbles come out. You don't want to leave a big old hole in there. So I took my time filling up the oil and then screwed on the top, and it is as good as gold. Then it's a case of getting this and adding the bearings to the other gears and then getting them inside the gear housing, which again just screws together nice and simply with a few screws there, and that is the gearbox pretty much done. So the motor of choice for vintage racing is a 10.5, and I've got this 10.5 system out of another one of my buggies. Unfortunately, the wires were a little bit short, so I'll have to come back to that in a bit. Next, we're on to the shock towers. So there's the front shock tower, the rear one as well, just a couple of screws to hold that in place. Then we need the extended body post for the retro shell. Moving on to the steering arms. They're pretty straightforward to put together. So there's a couple of bearings in there, and then you've got the metal hex, which you then need to screw in from the back. And then there's a hole in the arm that you can put a nut in to screw the ball for the turnbuckles. And then the steering arms going into the C-hub, like so. This actually I wasn't particularly happy with, because I felt that they're a little bit too tight. They don't move freely. So I'm hoping they're going to loosen off in time. But they do seem to have a little bit too much resistance there. So it might be I need to get the Dremel out and loosen them off. But I'm giving them a wiggle. There's no slop. They're just a little bit too tight and too snug. So there's a little bit of friction there. So moving on now, and we are looking at the rear hubs. Again, we've got bearings that need to just pop in place. You've got two size bearings. So the one on the outside is smaller than the one on the inside. Again, once these are all sort of clipped together, you just add the pin, and then this job, doesn't matter what car it is, turnbuckles, oh, it's a painful job. It does take a little bit of time, but once they are all in situ, the car is pretty much done. As I say, I've extended the wires on the motor and put in the Hobbywing Quick Run ESC. The problem is though, now I've got it at the side, the shell won't go down. So next job is to take off the fan. As you can see here, the fan is off, and that means that the shell fits over the top. And that is pretty much where we are and where I'm going to leave it for this video. So like, subscribe, hit the old ding dong bell, and hopefully in the next video you will see my fully completed RB10 racing on the track. As I say, like, subscribe, and we'll see you trackside soon.